Hello everyone. In this video, I want to show you my personal favorite feature about WordPress, which is custom post types and custom fields. Let's jump into the action and let me show you why this is my favorite feature. So here's a brand new homepage, but I've created a page called Pet Listing. And here you can see, let me zoom out a little bit, right? It has these different rows and columns. And the idea here is if I want to make an update, like let's say I want to add a new pet to this pet listing page, I don't need to edit this page. Instead, I would just go into my dashboard and I have this new little area called pets. So this is letting you know that WordPress is a lot bigger than just posts and pages. You can have different post types, like a custom post type. I have one called pets. So you can see each pet is its own post, and then you simply add a new post or you edit an existing post, and this feed is automatically updated. And now if I click on an individual post or a pet, you can see there's this template, right? Where it says like favorite food, their weight, they each have different values, right? So like this dog, carrots and a weight of 9, or like this cat, turkey and a weight of 8. Now let's imagine I want to change this weight to 10. So if I edit this pet post, I don't have to dig through like content up here in the content editor area. So that can just be maybe a couple paragraphs or any blocks that you want. But to change their values, like down here, notice it's completely separate from the content. There's these custom data fields called favorite food, and here we see weight. So I could change that to like 10 and then just click save. And I could also just change their name to like Pursloud Jr. and click save again. And now back on the detail screen for that animal, boom, you can see the weight was updated to 10, but I didn't have to adjust, this specific area with the background color and the 2-column layout. Instead, I'm updating raw data instead of having to worry about like a page builder tool. I love this because this scales infinitely. So even if you have like 50,000 pets, if you want to change this to be green instead of yellow, or this to be blue instead of pink, you just update one template, right? And that template controls where the raw data value goes and exactly, where it's styled or placed. This distinction between building pages and managing huge amounts of raw data, this is the true power, at least in my opinion. This is the real actual power behind WordPress. This combination of custom post types and custom fields. Now the fun part is that this basic example that we see here, you don't need to learn any coding in order to build this. So for the remainder of this video, I'm going to create this exact pet example with you, right? So the overall listing, and by the way, this listing now shows their new name, right? Pursloud Jr. Cool. We're going to build this exact listing grid and then also the single template view with post types, fields, categories, everything custom in this video without touching a single line of code. Let's jump into the action. Okay, so off camera, I just switched to a different WordPress project that does not have any custom post types or custom fields. So let's walk through this step by step together and learn how you can set this up yourself. The first thing you're going to want to do is install a certain plugin. So from your dashboard, let's click on plugins and then click add new plugin. We're going to use this field to search for a plugin, and its exact name is Advanced Custom Fields. So it should be the first result, Advanced Custom Fields, or ACF. You'll know that it's the right one if it has over 2 million active installations. Let's go ahead and click Install Now, and then just wait maybe 10, 15 seconds. We're waiting for the Activate button. So do be sure to click the Activate button. And as soon as you activate it, you'll notice now in the bottom left corner of your dashboard menu, we have an ACF menu. You can go ahead and click on that. And just a quick note for the remainder of this video recording, you'll see that on my screen right about here, it says SCF instead of ACF. Pay no attention to that. That's an odd part of WordPress history that I think we all wish that we could just forget about, or that it never happened. So again, do not worry that the screen recording says SCF. Yours will say ACF, and all of the instructions for the remainder of this video remain identical. There are several different options. We have field groups, post types, taxonomies. We're going to cover all 3 of these, but why don't we start with post types? So up here, let's click on post types and let's click add new. We want to add our first new custom post type. So the first thing we see is plural label. So that would be uppercase pets as in plural, and then singular label, that would be uppercase just singular pet. And then if you click off of that field, that should sort of auto-populate the rest of the fields for you. For now, I believe that's all we need. Yep, so just click Save Changes. And as soon as we do that, notice we now have this new pets post type over in the sidebar. Cool. Now you could click onto this to add a new pet, but let's go ahead and add custom fields. Currently, if you went in there and tried to create a new pet, there would only be a title and body content field. However, if from the SCF main screen, we click on field groups and then click to add a new field group, let's give it a title of maybe pet info. So that's the group as a whole, and then you can create as many different fields within that field group. For the first field, let's have it be favorite food. So field type can be text, and then field label, this would be favorite food. And then as soon as you click off of that field, it should auto-populate the safe name or the programmatic name. We don't need a default value. Let's add another field, and this will be weight. So for the field type, instead of text, it would be number. You can see this plugin is amazing. It has all sorts of different data types or field types. There's a lot to experiment with, but in this lesson, let's just stick to text and number. For the label, I'll just say weight, click off that, cool. So then lowercase weight. Let's scroll down to the very, very bottom of this screen, and we see show this field group if post type is equal to, and let's set this to only pet. So that way we don't show this for posts or pages, we only show it if the post type is of pet. Right, that's the only situation where favorite food and weight would make sense. Let's be sure to click Save Changes in the top right corner. And now one last detail before we actually go create a few pets. Let's click on taxonomies at the top of the main SCF screen. So taxonomies is just a fancy, or I should say generic word for categories. So if you click on taxonomies, so a category is really only for blog posts, but what if you wanted categories for pets? So taxonomies is just a more generic phrase for sectioning or dividing your content, categorizing your content. And let's have a taxonomy called species. So that way, if you ever wanted to, you could say on your homepage, only pull in 3 cats, or pull in the 5 newest dogs, so on and so forth. So let's create, add new taxonomy. For the plural label, I'll just say species. The singular label, I'll say species. If you click off of that, cool, this auto-populates. For post types, this should only apply to the pet post type. So just select only pet there, just click Save Changes. Now we're ready to go create a few example pets. So in the left-hand sidebar, click on Pets. We don't have any currently, so let's create a new one. I'll begin by creating a cat named Meows a Lot. Right away, let's see how we could assign a category or a species. So with the pet menu, not the block menu, but the pet menu selected, towards the bottom, if you scroll down, you'll see species. This UI is a little bit unintuitive, at least for me. So if you start to type into it, if I say cat, nothing happens, right? And I tried to click off of it to confirm, and then it selected a block. If you go back to pet, so after you type in the value, you need to press enter on your keyboard. I mean, it does tell you to do that right here, but we as humans tend to not read the really obvious instructions. So just go ahead and press enter on your keyboard. I don't know, I find that a little bit unintuitive, but anyways, that's how you do that. For the body content, you can just paste in maybe a couple dummy lorem ipsum paragraphs. But then the cool part is down here, if you scroll down, below the block content area, we see pet info. So I could say that their favorite food is tuna, give them a weight value of 10. And then before I actually save or publish this pet post type, I want to explain how images or featured images work. So if you added an image in line, you're controlling exactly where in the content the image should go, right? You're going to say oh, should the image come before the first paragraph or after the second paragraph, right? I mean, you can have any kind of sort of content you want here, but the question would be where should the image go? However, if you set a featured image, it's not up to you. You don't have to worry about where to place the image or the aspect ratio of the image. If you set a featured image, it's sort of like a programmatic dynamic image for that post. So it's up to the theme or the page template. It will decide, or it's responsible for placing the image in exactly the right spot at the right size. So anytime you can use a featured image, I recommend doing it. It creates a much more uniform or automatic experience, instead of micromanaging where the image should go. So let's click Set Featured Image. I'll just choose this cat photo that was sitting around on my hard drive. If you don't have any example photos to experiment with, I always recommend the website unsplash.com. It's where you can find a lot of royalty-free images. It's where I find most of my example images. But anyways, let's go ahead and set that featured image. Cool, so now I don't have to worry about like exactly where in my content. So I think you're starting to see a theme. This is raw data, like tuna, a weight of 10. I'm not having to worry about where on the page that goes or how it gets styled or like the size or the placement. Same thing with the image. So this is the way that large websites that are data driven or that have a lot of data, this is how they operate. The person inputting the data is not worrying about the presentation or the styling or the design. They're just entering in like a value, and even the photograph is really just a value. And the programmers or the developers or the designers are the ones sort of making it look nice and cohesive. But let's go ahead and click publish. And I won't bore you with it, but maybe off camera, why don't you go add maybe a few more cats and a few more dogs? Okay, so off camera, I just added, so if I go back and click on pets to see all of them, I now have 3 cats and 3 dogs. So now the question is, on the front end of our website, where in the world do we want to show these pets? There are an infinite number of ways that you could handle this and places that you could show off the pets. But let me give you probably the easiest way to get started. Let's click on pages and let's just add a new page. Let me name this page Pet Listing. And then for the content, you could include a paragraph or images or whatever you want, like a bit of introductory content. But when it's time to show the pets, we would just say / and just search for query. We want a query loop block type. Now you could start blank, but check this out. I'm going to show you how to use a template because it's, in my opinion, it's the easiest way. Like if I don't want just a bulleted list, what if I want like a 3-column grid, like each pet it has a photo and there's 3 per row. So I'm going to click choose a template. And if you scroll through these, there is a template called photo blog posts. I'm going to click on that to use it. And it may not look like a 3-column layout, but wait until we see it on the front end of our website. So now we just want to customize this. Remember, you can always use this icon to make sure that you have the query loop as a whole selected. And then with that selected over on the right-hand side, for post type, let's just swap that from post to instead be pet. As soon as you do that, you should see the images that you set for your featured image. Now you're starting to see the magic of setting featured images. We didn't insert them in like the content editor. They can be programmatically used anywhere at any size. Cool, and then I'm not going to do this. I'm just going to show all of my pets, but if you wanted to, this is where you could set a filter, and if you wanted to, you could say based on a taxonomy, and then for species, like you could say only show me cat, right? And then that's only going to show the cats. In this case, I'm just going to show all of my pets, but I wanted to show you a really quick example. That's how you connect the dots between a taxonomy and the query loop. Cool. Now, before I customize this any further, if I just go ahead and click publish and then refresh my front end, I would need to go to that specific page. For a bit of extra credit, you could go ahead and add pet listing to your top navigation. We learned how to do that in an earlier lesson. But just for now, for a quick solution, when you save a page, you can always use this link to view that specific page. But there's our pet listing. Cool. So there is our multiple pets per row. This is looking really good. And now when you click on one, like if I click on this individual Meowsalot, it takes me to a detail screen for just that pet. However, you'll notice that this doesn't really make sense for a pet. We probably wouldn't want it to say written by a user in a certain category. And then if you scroll down, we probably wouldn't want like the previous and next post. We probably don't want more posts, and we don't want you to be able to leave a comment, so on and so forth. So in maybe a minute or two from now, let's learn how to change this template so that it doesn't look like an individual blog post, and it instead looks like an individual pet. Before we get to that though, if we go back to the overall pet listing, I want to customize this so that below each pet photo, maybe there's a little bit of text that says their name, and it's also a link that you could click on. So let's walk through that. Let's go back to our pet listing page. And again, with this icon clicked, that gives us the list view here. You can expand your query loop. There you see the different groups. One of these is if there's no results, and then the final one is if, pagination. For the query loop, I would actually probably go ahead and set posts per page, just drag this up to 100. So that way, like they're not separating the different results into separate pages. We're probably not going to have more than 100 pets. So just show them all on one page. Cool. But this middle group, this is the group that actually loops through and displays all of your pets. So we can dig into post template. There we see featured image. So I'd probably just right click on featured image and choose add after, right? So right after the image, I want a paragraph. Only I don't actually want a paragraph. So I would just, here it is, you can see this. I would instead change this to be, and if you search for title, there's a block called title. That's going to automatically pull in the dynamic value, the title value for the post in question. Cool, and then instead of a heading level 2, you could set this to like a heading level 3. Let's go ahead and give it a black background and make the text white. So with that title block selected, we can click here to go to the styles menu, and then I would just click here to give it a background. Let's choose like black. Let's set the text color to white, and then let's fine tune the padding. Actually, let's set the size to maybe small or medium. Let's go with medium and see what that looks like. And now the padding, I'd start out with tiny on both the vertical and the horizontal, but let's make sure we zero out the margin. I don't want any space between the photo. Let me first, before I customize the margin, show you what I don't want. So if you refresh, so I don't want this. I don't want there to be any gap between the photo and sort of the text label. So what I would do is just with the new title block selected, I would make sure that the margin is completely zeroed out, and then I would click on my featured image and again go into its styling option, and again also make sure that its margin is completely zeroed out. Now if I save and refresh, this is good. I'm really starting to like the look of this. I think what's fun is to make this look even more cohesive or uniform, let's apply a filter so that all of the images look like inherently related, right? It'll look really cohesive. So just back on your editor, click on the featured image, and you don't have to do this once for each one. It's a template, so if you do it to just this one instance, it's going to apply to all of them. But with an image clicked on, we can click on this triangle icon. When you hover over it, it says Apply Duotone Filter, and let's just click on Shadows. And then just select a color. So you click on the empty checkerboard area, and maybe I'll just choose, like a blue shade like that. So I'll just click off of this. You could set a shadow color, but I like just the look of this. And as soon as I click save and then refresh, you get the idea. Now all of those featured images are receiving that exact same filter. This looks really cohesive, really uniform in my opinion. And as soon as you click on one, it takes you to the single view for a pet. At this point now, let's focus on customizing this template because this is set up for a blog post, right? It's going to say like written by a user in a certain category, and it has the previous and next, and it just looks like a blog post. So instead, let's learn how to take control of this template and programmatically show their favorite food and their weight. Before we get to that, I realized I forgot to make this label a link. It's really easy. Just go back into your template editor, select that title block, and with it selected, here we see make title a link. Just enable that, save it. Beautiful. So now if I refresh, I can click on that text as well to go to that individual post, or I should say pet. At this point, let's learn how to take control of the individual template for a single pet. To do this, just go into your dashboard, so back to the main dashboard, and under Appearance, let's click on Editor. You could also click Customize on the theme in question, and then we're just going to click Templates from this left-hand menu. And now if you scroll through this list, you're not going to see, there's all sorts of different templates, but you're not going to see here you see single posts, but we won't see single pets. That's fine. That's what this button up here is for. You can add a new template. So let's click that, add a new template, and if you scroll down towards the bottom, we should see single item, pet. That is exactly what we want. Click on that, and then we want it for all pets, not just a specific pet. We want it for all pets. So click that. Awesome. Now I'm just going to use, this is one instance where I do want a pattern. I want to start with a home base and then just customize it a little bit. So I'll click on this very first pattern. That's going to give me sort of a starting point. And now from here, let me just start removing things that I don't want. So like this written by author name and categories, I'm going to click on that. I do like to use this icon to make sure I know what I'm selecting. So yes, I don't want that entire row with that meta text. So I would just click on row in the list area, click the 3 dots, click delete. All right, let's see what else is on this. I don't want to show any tags, so I would just click on that. And then in the sidebar, I would just delete that group. Down here, I don't want the previous and next pet. So again, I would just probably click on that group as a whole and click delete. I definitely don't want to show any comments for pets, so I would click the 3 dots and click delete. I don't want to show more posts down here, so I would click on that entire group and click delete. It's going to warn me, but I've experimented with this before. You can just go ahead and click delete. Everything's going to still work as you would expect. Cool, so now let's go ahead and click save on this, and if you refresh the single view for one pet, we no longer see any extra content, right? It's just their name, their featured image, and their content. So now let's take it a step further though. Let's add maybe a little bit of content right here below the featured image that shows their favorite food and their weight. I will let you know, in order to do this in a fashion where we don't have to write any code, we do need to go install just one quick and easy plugin. So do this with me. Let's go back to our overall dashboard. And under plugins, we're going to add a new plugin. So you can click that here, or you can click on plugins and then use this button, add new plugin. The name of the plugin that we're going to search for is called Meta Field Block. It's this one, Meta Field Block, or MFB. It currently has over 5,000 active installations with a perfect 5-star rating. I would agree. I would also give it 5 stars. Let's go ahead and click install now. And then as soon as that's done, we're going to click activate. Cool. You could click skip, but really you can just navigate away from this screen. With that plugin activated, let's go back to our single template view. So on appearance, click customize for your theme, or just go to the editor. Click on templates. Let's find the single pet. Yes, so down towards the bottom, single item : pet. Let's click on that template to begin editing it. And I'll use this icon. And if I click on the featured image, here it is, right? So basically in between the featured image and the content, so in between these two, that's where I want to add a 2-column layout. So I'd click on featured image and right click and say add after. And then I don't want this to be a paragraph. I want it to be, I'll just type / and start searching for columns. I'll set up a 50-50 split. And now you can hide this to actually visually see the 2-column layout. But in the first column, I'm going to add a block type. And now this is where, if you start to search for Meta, this is the plugin that we just installed. It's called Meta Field Block. You click that, and then with it selected over in the right-hand area, for field type, we're going to set this to ACF. It's interchangeable with SCF, but that's the plugin we use to create custom fields. And now you do need to type in the exact field name. So I believe ours was favorite_food, all lowercase. And we can go ahead and save that just to refresh. And you can see Bear's favorite food is anything. But like if I go to, where's Meows a Lot? Meows a Lot, the cat, you can see their favorite food is tuna. Awesome. Now let's add like a label to that. So what you would do is with that block type selected, there's something called a prefix. Yes, down here, prefix and suffix. So for the prefix, I would just say like favorite food : and then a space. And then for layout, I would choose inline block. So as soon as I save that, you refresh. Beautiful. Let's go ahead and add in this column. So click on this empty column, click the plus symbol, just search for Meta Field Block. That's the block type we want. Change the field type to ACF. The field name, I believe, what was it? Weight. So just lowercase weight. And then it should also have a prefix of just weight : space. Let's give that a save, refresh. Awesome. Oh, we forgot to set it to inline. So display layout, set that to inline block. So that way they sit side by side instead of stacking. Let's add a little bit of background color and we should be close to finished here. So if I click on this first favorite food area, I can click on styling. I can choose a background color, maybe of yellow. I can click on this block, choose its styling menu, give it a background of this color. I can click save. I can refresh. Why don't I try to give them a bit of vertical padding? You always want a little bit of space. This doesn't look good, right? So I would just click on that, scroll down a little bit. Here's padding. They just need a little bit of vertical padding. Let's go with like tiny, and then on horizontal, maybe extra small. Let's see what that looks like. That looks pretty good. So I would do the same thing for this one. Go into its styling option. For padding, maybe that for the vertical, and extra small for the horizontal. Beautiful. What's cool is now, even if I had 10,000 pets, like if I go to one of the dogs, barks a lot, that exact same template, and it's super dynamic, right? We're pulling in dynamic values. We're setting up labels. We're setting up, 2-column grids and background colors and padding. You edit just that one template, and even if you had 1,000 pets, they're all using it. This, in my opinion, is the true power behind WordPress. So please feel free to experiment. Pets was just an example. You can have multiple custom post types with custom field groups, custom taxonomies. You can create different listings. The sky's the limit. And once you start to view WordPress as sort of this automatic experience where you're just plugging in values and then the template does things for you, that's the magic. That's when WordPress lets you scale infinitely. And your website can become just a living, breathing entity with fresh content pulled in all sorts of dynamic places, your homepage, your footer. It's a fun world to experiment in. But that is going to bring this lesson to a close. Now, where do we go from here? What are we going to do in the next video? Well, this is a fun world to experiment in, but I think eventually you're going to find that in some cases you are limited to what the block types let you do. So for example, like what if you wanted to add like a feed on your homepage that only shows dogs whose weight is under 12 or over 20? Like what if you're wanting to filter based on like those really custom values? Or what if you think of some feature that the block types, the built-in block types of WordPress do not let you do? Well, in situations where a theme or a plugin or a default block type doesn't let you do what you want to do, the only solution is to roll up your sleeves and maybe write a little bit of code yourself. So at this point, I just want to make this clear. You do not need to get into coding, but I encourage you to. In our next video, we're going to start to dip. It's going to be hopefully a slow and gradual journey of dipping our toes into the world of writing code. Coding is not easy. No one's saying that it's easy, but it lets you do the impossible. It lets you do things that maybe don't exist yet, right? Like maybe there's not a plugin or a theme or a setting that lets you do exactly what you want to do, or maybe what your client wants to do. But if you write a bit of code, it is possible. Almost anything is possible with code. So that's the journey we're going to start in our very next video. I hope to see you stick around. Let's talk about ways to support this series. If you're enjoying this series, this YouTube channel, learning about WordPress. So the first thing is, if you need somewhere to host your WordPress website, right, instead of just your local WP sites, personally, I've used DreamHost in my real life for the last 19 years. I want to show you the exact plan that I use too. So under hosting, shared website hosting, there's two main plans: Shared Starter and Shared Unlimited. I don't recommend Shared Starter because you can only have one website. This plan, Shared Unlimited, you can have unlimited websites. This is the exact plan that I've used for the last 19 years. If you use my link to DreamHost in the description of this video, I will receive compensation for sending new users their way, but that's a great way to support this series and this YouTube channel. Also, if you check out my website, learnwebcode.com, I do have a Patreon as well as a YouTube membership with similar benefits or perks. So on Patreon, the perks are you get your name added to the closing credits of these videos. You're going to get source code zip files. And this makes sense now because now that we're going to start getting into code, you might want to look at the reference code that we're writing together. Also, there are polls where you can vote, have a bit of input on like which features we're going to learn next as we progress through this series. Also, I have many different courses available. You can join them on both Udemy and my Teachable platform. We've already mentioned DreamHost. You can join my newsletter if you'd like to, or follow me on different social media. That's about it. Thank you so much for watching until the very end of this video. I hope you feel like you learned something. More than anything, I hope you're excited to go on this coding journey with me. I think it's going to open a lot of doors for you, and it's just fun to learn a new skill. Anyways, I'll see you in the next video. Take care. This video was made possible by my supporters on Patreon and YouTube memberships. I don't have any producers yet, but your name could go here. But I want to give a huge shout out to Rodney for being the first sponsor tier member over on Patreon. Thank you very much, Rodney. I really appreciate the support. Take care, everyone, and I'll see you in the next video.